Hey guys, this is Mr. Ham here with the introduction to your Montage project. I'm really excited to be moving on to this project with you guys. I think that it's going to be a lot of fun and I can't wait to see what you come up with. So let's start with a couple of specs. The dimensions for your piece of paper is 14 by 17 inches. That's just the regular size of your bristle board and tracing paper that you already have. And this is going to have a 1-inch border, so that means that the working size of your drawing is 12 by 15 inches. This project is a little bit different than ones you've already done this semester because you'll have one main subject, which will be a portrait of an historical figure or a missionary, someone like that. You'll have your person approved by us before you get started. And then you'll also have two supporting elements. So these are going to be elements that communicate who the person is. And what you're going to do is combine all these elements together into one original composition completely designed by you. So we'll talk a little bit on how to do that later in the video. For the project, you can use any technique and any medium that you've already used. For example, you could use charcoal, graphite, Conte, stipple, but I don't advise that, crosshatch if you'd like to, so that's completely up to you. The first thing you'll want to do is figure out your concept. In this case, who is going to be your subject and what do you want to say about them? This is your message, and it's the most important part of your drawing. Art is, after all, a visual language. What you're communicating and your ability to communicate it masterfully are the two most important things. The most effective compositions communicate only one idea. Trying to fit multiple ideas into your composition can become confusing. So just focus on one thing you want to say about your subject and allow that message to be the most prominent component of the work. Here are some tips on how to decide on your concept. First, remember the specs for the project and then write a word list. Anything that comes to mind, just write it down. You might have a lot of ideas, just choose the one that works best for the project and that you're the most excited about. Once you've decided on your subject, you need to decide what you're going to say about them. To do this, you could use a word map. This will help you pinpoint the most important thing to say about this person. Remember that you need two supporting elements. For me, I have decided to use the word meow and also a plant to say something about my cat. Think of it as storytelling. What are the best elements that you could use to tell the story of your subject? When you feel that excitement about an idea and want to turn it into art, call it inspiration and go with it. Once you have decided on your concept, it's time to figure out how you're going to put it all together. That's where composition comes in. Think of composition like music. All of the pieces have to play their own part. If one instrument plays in a different key, the integrity of the entire orchestra is lost. This next part of the video is going to give you some information on what a good composition is, and then we will talk about the creative process you will go through to take your concept to a finished work. Here are the three things we're going to focus on: hierarchy, eye-flow, and harmony. Or in other words, huh? First, hierarchy. Hierarchy is all about having a clear order of importance. In other words, making sure that first things comes first and the rest follows. All elements fit into two categories: the dominant, also known as the focal point, and the supporting, which is all the other elements in the composition. Creating hierarchy is simple. Emphasize the focal point and de-emphasize your supporting elements. You will do this using the principles and elements of design. For example, line, shape, value, space, texture. There are many ways to emphasize something. Let's look further at a couple of these. So let's start with size. Right now, the cat and the plant have equal importance because they're the same size. But if I were to de-emphasize the plant by making it smaller, that would make a better hierarchy for my composition. You can also use shape around the outside of a subject to frame and isolate it. This emphasizes your focal point and makes it more important than the other elements. Another is value. You can emphasize the focal point by having higher value contrast. The plant on the left has the most contrast with the values that are around it, so it becomes more important than the one on the right. The next is texture. The focal point should have the most detail on the page. Remember that the eye is attracted to hard edges. If you have the most value contrast and the most amount of detail on the focal point, the viewer won't be able to help but look at it. Another is overlap. This is a use of space in the composition to create hierarchy. Objects that are in front are generally going to be more important. And the last is eye flow. You could use leading lines to direct the viewer's eye towards the focal point. The plant on the right is obviously more important than the one on the left because of all the lines that are pointing at it. Think of ways that you can design your supporting elements to point and guide your viewers towards the focal point. This will add rhythm to your work and make it a lot more interesting to the viewer. Let's move on to harmony. Harmony is the sense of togetherness amongst otherwise separate parts. You can create harmony in your composition by connecting your elements together. There are many ways to do this, like overlapping and framing, as we've already talked about. Pointing creates harmony between the supporting elements because they will all lead towards the focal point. Also, stacking elements one on top of another and integrating elements into each other can create harmony. Let's look at some examples. You can see that the elements in this composition are floating next to each other. Floating objects are generally not good. However, if you stack the objects on top of each other, it will connect them and have better harmony. The circle elements in this composition are interesting and have good size contrast, but the unity is lacking. However, if we integrate this element into the focal point, it will have better unity. Alright, now that we have some ideas on how to make a good composition, let's talk about the process you'll go through to get from your brainstorm all the way to your finished drawing. You'll start with thumbnails and then a value comp. These are the most important parts of your process because they lay the foundation for the rest of the work, so really don't skip these steps. All art is design. No matter how well your drawing is rendered, if the design is bad, the finished work is bad. So let's start with thumbnails. These only need to be 2 or 3 inches large. These are kind of like idea sketches to visualize different ways of putting your elements together. These are not supposed to be detailed, but should be clean enough to show good hierarchy, eye flow, and harmony. You're only required to hand in 4, but you might want to do at least 10 to 20 so that you have 4 good options. It's said that you have to do at least 100 sketches before you get one good one, so try to get all of those 100 out. Each sketch that you hand in should be a completely different arrangement of the elements, as you can see in the sketches in these pictures. You'll want to speak with your teacher and receive feedback before you continue on to the next step, which is the value comp. The value comp is slightly larger than the thumbnails, around 6 to 7 inches. This is done to give direction to the final drawing, so make sure that the shapes and values are accurate enough to explain what you are planning to do in your finished work. After your value comp has been approved, you will start your line drawing, then transfer and render as you're already accustomed to doing. And voila! When you have finished your drawing, everyone will look at it as if it was magically put together. But you know the truth, and the truth is that good design takes time and effort, and multiple fails before something good is achieved. So don't be disappointed if your teacher has a lot of direction for you. Remember that creativity, like anything else, is a skill that can be learned. I'm excited to see all of your guys' drawings, and remember, the finished work really is worth the effort.